Hi guys, welcome back to Ask a Lawyer. I have 5 new stories for you today. In today's video, we will have a lot of stories about entitled parents. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and enjoy. I am a teenage girl living in Italy with extremely religious parents, and a now 26-week pregnant 14-year-old sister. My parents raised us with no knowledge of S and did everything they could to ensure that we couldn't learn about S in school, such as removing us from school in days S education was performed, and going as far as to remove me from class whenever I had biology in my later school years, in case I got any ideas. And they never told us about it either. We were always taught that S is for married couples who want to have children. And so the only real knowledge of S I had was from my friends and media. My parents think I am still a virgin, despite being with my current boyfriend for 2 years. But this is not true. As they never found out about me having S, I suppose my parents assumed their methods worked. However, last year, my sister, who was much braver than I was, came home to my parents and said she had a boyfriend. They got extremely angry, but knowing they couldn't really stop her seeing him without pulling her out of that school, accepted it somewhat. My sister's boyfriend does not come from a religious background. I know his family well, as I am friends with his older sister, and they are very liberal. My little sister and I share a room, and long story short, I found protection in her pocket when I was tidying up her clothes. I asked her about it, and she told me they had been having S for months with the protection. I'm still pretty uneducated about S due to my upbringing, but I have also been using protection only for years, so I, perhaps stupidly, assumed she would be fine and decided not to tell my parents. She is of age here, and he is a nice boy, so I assumed it was fine. This was a while ago, and I recently came home to a huge argument going on in my house. My parents had found out that my little sister is pregnant, and she has somehow been hiding it for all this time. My parents were going crazy at her, making her cry and simultaneously telling her she is stupid for getting pregnant, but also that giving away the baby would be wrong. My mother also claimed that an abortion would never be an option, to which my sister said she was too far along anyway. As far as I am aware, abortions are not permitted after the first trimester. At this point, my mother changed her mind and decided that my sister absolutely should have an abortion. It was a huge mess in which I mainly stood aside. My mother eventually asked my opinion, and I replied, "I think it's entirely your fault she is pregnant. You actively prevented her from knowing how to have safe S, and ultimately, this child should be your responsibility. You have failed her and are abusing her for it. My whole family are now angry at me. And along with this, I shared that I had had sex at her age, and the way they raised us made it deceitful. Now everyone is angry at each other, apart from me and my sister, and I can't help feeling like my input made it worse. I guess it's not about protection, as they were using it, but it's more about the age she started having S. At 14? Isn't that a little bit too early? I think OP at least should have told her that it's too early to have S at 14. Of course, OP is right saying that it's the parents' fault for trying to protect their children from information about S. OP is not an idiot, and looks like truth hurts. The secrecy started early. I am a gay woman. At 15, I came out. My mom simply disagreed. She told me I wasn't gay. She said I was jealous, that these girls looked better than me and I was jealous of them, not attracted to them. She genuinely thinks it's impossible for me to be gay and never took it seriously. I got to a point where I didn't tell her if I met anyone. Skip to when I met my wife. When I'd finally let my mom know about her, we had been together 2 years now. The convo went like this. Me, we want to get married. Her, extremely disdainful. Oh, you do? Well, let me tell you something, OP. You're going to want a man. Your car breaks down? You're screwed. You need heavy stuff moved? Screwed. 2 women can't make love. You're going to want a man in bed with you. I hung up on her. I was so ducking mad. I married my wife without telling my parents. I never told my mom we wanted a child and never told her of his birth. When I visited for Christmas, I went alone. I'm not sure when I plan to tell her or how. I just hadn't gotten around to doing it. Seriously, procrastination and dread. My wife and I live a few hours from my parents. They've never visited. They don't know my address. And when we spend time together, I go to them. They do pass through on the way to visit other family, though. They had stopped at our Walmart to get last-minute items, and that's when they saw us. I was there getting stuff for dinner and had my son in the cart seat. We were going down an aisle when I heard, "Hey, kiddo," from behind. I recognized my mom's voice and turned to face her, ready to do introductions. But damn, man, the instant she saw my son, she gave me the dirtiest ducking look and said, "Whose kid?" Me, now pissed. Mine. Her. What do you mean he's yours? Me. I mean he's mine. Her. He can't be yours. Me. Ever heard of IVF? Her. So you went and spent God knows how much money to have a kid with your girlfriend. Me. Wife. Her. And when were you going to tell me about all this? Me. I don't know. I don't want to talk about it in the middle of the store. I walked away and checked out, her following, still talking crap. I put my son and food in the car and left. My mom called later. I tried to talk to her. I apologized for the secrecy. Said she gets condescending when we talk about these things. She denied this. She then went on about how I didn't invite her to the wedding, that she'll never get that moment back and see me get married, which I do feel bad about. She eventually asked when I could bring my son over. I said never. I said I wasn't going to bring him there when she's so negative toward us. I said she doesn't respect me or my family, so she doesn't deserve to know my family. Hung up on her and haven't answered her calls or texts. She has apologized for speaking to me the way she has, but I don't care at this point. I'm too ducking mad. Am I the idiot for not inviting her to the wedding and not allowing her to see my son? Is never too harsh? Not an idiot. OP is an adult and gets to decide who she wants in her life. So the mother wants to see the grandson, but still won't accept OP's wife. If mom can't be civilized towards the wife, then she doesn't deserve to see the grandson. Also, given the history with mom, I would be worried about her talking negatively about me to my kid. I, 23 female, graduated with my bachelor's last year and am now working on my master's. I'm the only child out of 6 to graduate college and get higher education. My college posts academic schedules in advance, so I knew 4 years in advance the exact date I would be graduating. Throughout these years, I was reminding everyone when it was, because it landed on my brother's, 27 male, birthday. Over winter break, before the pandemic, my brother and his longtime on-off girlfriend announced they had eloped. My mom was ecstatic and started asking if they would have a ceremony. My new sister-in-law said they were already planning on their shared birthday. I interjected at this point that I was graduating that day and there was no way I could make it, and my parents, since they would be there. But if they moved it to the next year or any other time, we could do it. Before they could say anything, my mom said she'd be going to their wedding, not my graduation. I asked if she was really going to skip something I've worked so hard for that I feel is a huge accomplishment. I could see skipping if they were going to get married, but they had already eloped, and it would just be the ceremony. The next few months were very tense and icy until the pandemic shut everything down anyway. I told my parents that there was a good chance they'd hold commencement next year around the same time, but almost guaranteed not to be on my brother's birthday, so keep the week cleared for the most part. Last week, my college announced they were going to hold a commencement for the 2020 class the day before his birthday. I was excited and thought everything had worked out, but when I told my mom, she said they would be gone the whole week with my brother and sister-in-law for a small destination ceremony across the country. She said she hadn't told me earlier because it was my finals week and I'd be busy anyway. I'll admit that I wasn't able to contain myself and started crying that my mom would skip my graduation twice. She claims it's not a big deal since I'll be graduating next year with my master's and she can see that one. This has my family split and I can't tell if I'm the idiot. It is his, presumably, only wedding ceremony and that date does hold significance for them, but my graduation was years of hard work and dedication. OP has a right and a reason to be upset. Looks like mom already made a decision which party to attend. She clearly favors OP's brother over OP and sees getting married to someone else as a bigger accomplishment. I just don't understand why it is so hard to change the wedding date. I, 27 male, have a sad and hurt fiancé, 29 female, over a hypothetical situation and need an outside perspective. Backstory. My great-grandmother was the product of an affair between her mother and her boss. Because he was already married and my great-grandmother was biracial, she was never acknowledged. It wasn't until his father was on his deathbed, his wife had already passed before him, that he gave her his mother's ring and finally gave her the recognition she always craved. She loved that ring, and since then it's been a prized possession in the family. My aunt was the only girl in the family after the grandmother died and doesn't have any children of her own. She told me that she would like to continue the tradition of passing this ring along to the next female generation and said that she would hang on to it until I decided to give it to someone really special in my life. It didn't explicitly mean to give it to my future wife, but my aunt let me know that it was an option. Fast forward to now, and I proposed to my live-in girlfriend of 3 years. In the past, I had considered giving her the ring, but decided against it because, while I love her, she is a bit of an irresponsible airhead. It's not malicious or blatant lack of care, but she does have a habit of losing, damaging, or misplacing things. I'd much rather give the ring to a future responsible daughter instead, and just ended up proposing with a $4,000 ring. My girlfriend loved the ring and was so proud of finding a guy who knew what she liked. Since we were in the early stages, my girlfriend was still in the habit of showing it off. Unfortunately, she lost it. And when I say lost, I mean she accidentally dropped it down the elevator shaft when she was showing it off to a coworker. My girlfriend was distraught and was almost too ashamed to tell me. I told her that, while I was upset, that I didn't hate her and I would get her a replacement. She was so grateful and didn't care that the replacement ring was a lot cheaper and was happily showing this one off as much as the other one. My fiancé made a big post and then all hell broke loose when a cousin of mine, paternal side, asked why I didn't just give her the maternal side family ring, since it had such great sentimental value. Now my fiancé knew about the ring but assumed that my aunt would take it with her to the grave. She didn't know that giving it to her was an option and asked about it. I tried to say that I would rather give it to our future daughter, but she countered that by giving it to her, it didn't mean that our future daughter wouldn't get it later. After enough pushing, I finally admitted my concerns about potentially losing the ring. My fiancé was very hurt by this, and while she hasn't said anything directly, she is sulking, and I've even heard her cry about it. Her sister is calling me a jackass for refusing to give my fiancé the ring. Am I the idiot? Edit. Yes, we did contact management about getting the ring from the bottom of the elevator shaft, but it couldn't be located. My fiancé stated that it was dropped when the doors were opening and closing, and her coworkers backed up the story. Edit 2. Yes, the ring was properly sized at the time she showed it off to a coworker. However, she took it off to show the inscription inside. Edit 3. Yes, the ring was insured, and we used that money to get her a new one. Of course not the idiot. She did exactly what OP thought she would, except it could have been the family ring down the elevator shaft. Also, I don't understand people who take their ring off to show other people, especially expensive ones. Can't people see it just fine on their hand? My cousin got married 3 weeks ago. Cousin and I are paternal cousins, related through my father. Father and I are estranged, and the first time I saw him in the last 4 years was at the wedding. While there, he approached me multiple times to talk. I said no firmly more than a dozen times, until he pushed yet again, and I snapped. Some background. My parents divorced when I was 5. My dad put his relationships before me a lot, and it was hard to be around him at times. Some of his girlfriends were fine. Others were not. When I was 10, he met his wife, and when I was 12, she got pregnant. I lost my mom the day their oldest was born. My mom was dead a whole hour when he showed up. Same hospital, but was with his wife, and tried to get me to act all excited to meet the baby. That stuff was hard, I won't lie. We actually got into a fight the very next day because I had no interest in meeting the baby, and a year later, when it was her first birthday, I was all depressed, and it was an issue, especially when I didn't want to join in the celebration. The relationship was already broken, but by then, it was gone beyond repair. He was mad and thought I was selfish. I felt abandoned and couldn't share their joy because I lost the most important person in the world to me. I moved in with my grandparents about 6 months before my 18th birthday, and the day before my birthday was the last time I spoke to my father. Until the wedding, and like I said, I snapped when he just kept approaching me, and I told him that he ducking sucked for expecting me to be happy about a baby being born the day my mom died, and that he abandoned me for his wife and new kid when I was losing the most important person in my world, and then he called me selfish. I told him that he had let me down and nothing he could do would fix it, and I could not make it more clear that I didn't want anything to do with him. I ended up leaving the wedding, but my cousin followed me out and tried to talk me into staying and reassuring me I did nothing wrong. But I didn't want to make more of an issue. But my aunt is pissed. My aunt is my father's sister. She told me I was an a-hole for making such a scene at my cousin's wedding, that I should have continued walking away, that it was terrible to say that where others could hear, and not only had I upset my father, but his family was there and heard the whole thing, and so did her son-in-law's family. My cousin said her husband's family heard nothing, and neither did most of the guests, and that her mom is blowing it out of proportion. But I feel bad because it caused even more family drama than we already have. My not talking to my father is quite controversial in my paternal family. Am I the idiot? Oh, I feel so sorry for OP. He is definitely not the idiot. P didn't make a scene. His father did. It's not like he was asking for a fight. OP told him he didn't want to talk to him, and he repeatedly ignored him. Dad is a big idiot.